Hello, if you're listening to this, you are obviously watching the YouTube version of the podcast. I didn't have time to film anything too marine based for the background of this. I will have some background images that are relevant to what I'm talking about, but yeah, not too much in the film based, so you're just going to see my fish. And if you are worried about the guppy, the yellow fish just being on its own looking depressed, that's because she killed her other guppy friends, so that's why she's all sad and on her own, and I can't find a new home for her. So if you live in the Rotterdam area and you want a guppy, female guppy, hit me up. But yeah, enjoy. Thank you. Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Ship Pod. This is a reactionary episode to the news that we got today that the Rotterdam, the Amsterdam, the Veendam and the Maasdam are leaving the Holland America Line fleet. I'm not really into cruise ships. However, the Dutch media has taken this news quite seriously, and I thought that I would kind of jump on that bandwagon. And also, the Holland America Line is very central to Dutch marine history and is today still quite relevant, even though it's owned by Carnival. So today I'm going to very quickly go over some of the characteristics of these ships, a little bit of their history, and where they are going. Firstly, a little bit of information about the Holland America Line. They were the primary transatlantic line for the Netherlands throughout most of the 19th century. They're based in were based in Rotterdam, and yeah, they were very well known for their clean and quite luxury ships during that period. They were one of the first ocean liner companies to make the transition into cruising. They did that quite early on. And they have lots of history and lots of traditions which, since they were bought in 1989 by Carnival, have kind of been kept alive. One of these is the naming system. So in days of late, they have named their ships ending in either a dam or a dike. And this refers to place names in the Netherlands normally, not always, and especially recently that's not been kept up. But the rule has basically been for passenger ships in Holland America Line, the name would end in dam, such as Amsterdam, Leindam, or for the cargo ships or their passenger/cargo ships, this would have been like Delftdijk or I can't remember any of the other names, Kinderdijk, for example. But now Holland America Line doesn't have any cargo ships; they are a purely cruise ship company, and all of their ships end in dam. Another tradition in Holland America Line is a grandfathering of names of their ships, or I guess as we refer to ships as female, I guess a grandmothering. This is most notably the case with the Rotterdam, which unfortunately is the current Rotterdam. The 6th Rotterdam is leaving the Holland America Line fleet. There have been, of course, 6 Rotterdams before her. Well, there have been 5 before her, not including herself. One of them I actually live quite close to, the 5th Rotterdam, who was built in 1959. She's been preserved in Katendrecht in Rotterdam. She's lovely. If you're ever in Rotterdam, you should go to her. She's really great. There's also an escape room as well, if you're into that sort of stuff. Beautiful restaurant. But yeah, I digress. A lot of Holland America Line's ships have predecessors with similar names. Under the Carnival company, Holland America Line is one of the higher ends. Their ships are very sophisticated. They have lots of art on board, and they are aimed towards the higher paying passenger, the older passenger as well. And in recent years, they have taken on some really quite huge cruise ships, and yeah, a lot of these ships are very similar to other ships in the Carnival company fleet. So along with Cunard, Costa, and, well, Carnival itself. And at the moment, they're taking delivery of Pinnacle class ships. And yeah, that's also a reason why these ships are leaving the Holland America Line fleet. With COVID-19 put on top, it kind of sped up what was going to happen anyways. So let's get into it. I'm going to do this a little bit back to front because I'm going to start talking about the R class, which is leaving the Holland America Line fleet, even though they are the younger of the two classes which are leaving. But hey, they're the more notable ones, so deal with it. So the 2R class, which stands for Rotterdam class, because the MS Rotterdam was the first ship in the class. So like the Olympic class, for example, the Olympic was the first ship in the class of Olympic, Titanic, and Britannic. So it was the Olympic class, even though the Titanic was more known about after the fact. But hey, so the MS Rotterdam and the MS Amsterdam are leaving the Holland America Line fleet. They are from the late 90s, and I'll first talk about the MS Rotterdam. So she was the sixth Rotterdam, as I have said before. She's very loosely based off the 1959 Rotterdam. Nico Guns, who is quite a celebrated Dutch marine author, he wrote in his most recent book about the fifth Rotterdam, the SS Rotterdam, about his experience working on the development of the Rotterdam, which is now leaving the Holland America Line fleet. And he writes, "It was gratifying that the new ship incorporated a number of echoes of her predecessor, such as the paired funnel and the representation of the celebrated Ritz-Carlton Memorial in the dining room." What Nico Guns means by the paired funnel is the double uptake funnel. So when the SS Rotterdam was new in 1959, she was quite revolutionary in that she didn't have a conventional funnel. She had two basically tubes towards her stern, so quite far aft. And this was a double uptake funnel, very similar to what was on the Canberra, the P&O liner that went between the UK and Australia. And so when the SS Rotterdam was replaced in 1997 by the MS Rotterdam, who is now leaving the Holland America Line fleet, the designers decided to incorporate another double uptake funnel. And we also see this on the Amsterdam. But yes, again, I digress. I'm sorry. The MS Rotterdam, she was built in 1997, a very good year, by the way. I'll let you guess why. In Italy, and she was 61,000 gross tons. She had a length of 237 metres with a width of 32 metres. She had a black hull with a white and black funnel, funnels, as we already discussed, with a white superstructure. Interesting side note is that Holland America Line in the 1950s and 60s decided to change their ships to have a grey superstructure, much like in the previous episode Rotterdam Lloyd had. However, when Carnival came into the picture, they reverted back to the black hulls of the early 1900s. But yeah, to this day, they still have black hulls. Rotterdam also had capacity for 1,400 passengers, with 600 crew to tend to those passengers. And she's had a little bit of an eventful life. She did a phase of doing transatlantic crossings for a while back in the early 2000s. During one of these, she lost power in a storm, and lots of people were injured apparently, but she got power back and she sailed to Canada, not to New York, which was her intended destination. Recently, the Rotterdam was involved in quite a shameful part of Holland America Line's history, actually dealing with COVID-19. The Zaandam, another Holland America Line ship, was in the South Pacific. She was basically off the coast of South America when there was an outbreak on board, which basically resulted in the death of 4 passengers. And the Rotterdam rushed to the rescue in a way and gave the Zaandam some equipment, some health equipment, and transferred some healthy passengers across. And the 2 ships had to race through the Panama Canal to get back to the US to drop off the passengers. And there was lots of drama about should the ships be allowed in the Panama Canal? Yes, no. Yes, they were allowed, and they basically went through in like the quickest time that's been done so far, especially by ships in operation. And then when they actually got out, it was like, can they dock in Florida? The politicians said no, but kind of where else are they going to go? So yeah, they did dock in Florida. And yeah, the Zaandam, who I was actually expecting to leave the fleet, because her name was all over news bulletins for about 2 or 3 weeks a few months ago because of the death of the 4 passengers. She's staying in the fleet, which is a surprise. She's actually currently off the coast of the Netherlands, and my old city, The Hague, if you go to the beach, you could see her. And if you're on YouTube, you can probably see a picture of her now that I put up. But yes, that last journey, that mad dash through the Panama Canal and to Florida, was probably her last journey with passengers under the Holland America Line banner. What an end, but hey-ho, what can you do? But yeah, so she's been sold to Fred Olsen Cruises, She'll be known as the Borealis, and she will, of course, make up one of the smaller ships in the Fred Olsen fleet. And from my personal perspective, this probably means that I'll actually get to see, well, what was the Rotterdam more often, because Holland America Line, although they pre-COVID, they were in Rotterdam quite regularly. Lots of their ships spent a lot of time around the US and in Asia. So Fred Olsen is quite Europe-centric, and they have lots of ships that come to Rotterdam quite regularly. So I might actually get to see a little bit more of her, but hey-ho, we'll see. But yes, now we'll talk about the Amsterdam. She's very similar to the Rotterdam. They are sister ships. They're in the same class. So she was also built in Italy. She also has a double uptake funnel. She does, however, date from 2002, so she's a little bit younger. And she's also a little bit bigger because she's 62,000 gross tons. She's also 237 metres long and 32 metres wide. She does have slightly less passengers, however, unusually. So she has 647 crew and 1,300 passengers. She will now be known as Bolette. I think I'm saying that right. It's a Norwegian way of saying it. And the guy, I watched the video on the Fred Olsen crew's website, and the way he said it, I was like, I wouldn't have said it like that. But Bolette is how I think it's. And I'm sorry for not having too much information about these two ships. Frustratingly, about a year ago, I had in my hands a book about the MS Rotterdam, the modern Rotterdam, and I decided not to buy it. And ever since, I've been trying to find it online, and it's been sold out. So had I bought that book, I would have had more information to share with you, but I don't have it, so I can't. Sorry. And well, apparently now it doesn't matter anyways, because they're not going to be in the Holland America Line fleet for much longer. But yeah, so it's kind of sad that these ships will no longer be under the Dutch flag, although they were owned by an American company. They were registered in the Netherlands. It's going to also end the funny contradiction of the MS Amsterdam being registered in Rotterdam. Kind of funny. The Dutch have a bit of a rivalry between Amsterdam and Rotterdam. This stems from football between Ajax in Amsterdam and Feyenoord in Rotterdam, I believe. So much so that some people from Rotterdam don't even call Amsterdam by Amsterdam. They call it by the area code in the phone numbers and vice versa. So that's going to end. So that used to be funny, but it's not going to be funny anymore. See? So more stuff the coronavirus ruins. But yeah. But at least they're not heading to the scrap heap. So small victories. But now we're going to go to the mysterious side, the S-class, which stands for the Stadendam class. So Holland America Line in its history has had quite a few ships called the Stadendam, and in the early 90s they had another ship called the Stadendam, which was the first in the S-class amount of ships. Amount of ships? Type of ships. Yeah, you get me. They were sisters. So this is the Veendam and the Maasdam, which are left in the fleet. A lot of the other S-class, well, all the other S-class ships actually left the fleet in around about 2015. So this was the Stadendam and the Rijndam. They went over to CMV, another European cruise company. So we don't know where the Veendam and the Maasdam are going to go. And if I was a betting man, I would say they're going to go to CMV, as they already have some other S-class ships that used to be Holland America Line. However, CMV have had some difficulties, more so than other cruise companies during the COVID outbreak, where they actually had some of their ships confiscated by the British government because they weren't paying their crew. That was actually solved, however. But yeah, it would be very odd if they did acquire these ships, and the fact that they're so old, well, I say they're so old by COVID standards, they're from the early 90s, so it wouldn't surprise me if they were heading to the scrap heap, but we don't know, so we'll wait and see. This was recorded on the 16th of July 2020, so it's likely you'll know this by the time you're listening to this, but there you go. As I said, this is reactionary. But yeah, I'll briefly cover the two ships. So there's the Maasdam. She is from 1992, 55,000 gross tons. She's 220 metres long and 30 metres wide. She has the capacity for 1,258 passengers, very precise, and she also has 580 crew. So yeah, she has a future to await apparently. Her sister, the Veendam, she was the fourth Veendam in the Holland America Line fleet. She was a bit younger. She's from 1995. Both these ships were built in Italy. The Veendam also is a bit larger than the Maasdam, as she's 57,000 gross tons. But other than that, they are very similar in size. Both ships had 20 knots speed as their cruise speed. The Veendam did have slightly more passengers, about 100 or so more, and less crew, which is interesting. Mind you, I did get this off Wikipedia, so yeah, we'll see. The Veendam also had a refit in 2009, quite a major refit, but despite that, the ships are getting on. They are quite old, so this came to no surprise. I genuinely was surprised that these ships were still in the fleet, to be honest. And the fact that it's taken a few months for Carnival to say that these ships are going to be withdrawn is quite remarkable. And yeah, we'll see where they'll go. Had this happened last year, I would say CMV would have gobbled them up. But it probably is more than likely now that they're going to head to the scrap heap. But we shall wait and see. It's also worth mentioning that all the ships that are leaving the Holland America Line fleet, they are from a different generation of cruise ship. They are very small, and they would kind of be more in the expedition cruise ship category, I think, of today. They spend a lot of time in Alaska and in the unusual places. And today, or at least pre-COVID, larger cruise ships, they're the thing. They're what companies seem to be aiming for. And the smaller cruise ships, such as these liners, cruise liners, not ocean liners, they don't have as much of a place in the market. And it seems like the coronavirus is expediting this retreat of the smaller cruise ship. And for Holland America Line, they're getting another quite a large cruise ship soon. I can't remember the name. It was released the other day what the name was going to be. And I'm not a cruisy person, so I don't really keep up to date too much. But yeah, they've been receiving the Pinnacle class recently. So they had the new Amsterdam, which actually came into Rotterdam for the first time recently. I was there to see it. And if you're on YouTube, I'll probably play a clip of that. Whilst you're listening to this. So it's a very sad time for Holland America Line, and I really hope that the crew are going to be looked after and that no one loses their job over this, and that the cult following of these ships can continue to experience them, although under a different banner. And that is all I have to say about this situation. This was very reactionary. I did not do as much research as I'd like to have done, mainly because there's not really much out there about these ships, because they are just cruise ships. There's no great history attached to them. So yeah, and I didn't have time to contact people who would probably know more about it than I do. But anyways, I hope that this has educated some people who wouldn't have otherwise known about these ships. And now if you see any of them, you can go, oh yeah, that used to be a Holland America Line ship. Oh yeah. But yeah, this was the second episode of the Ship Pod. This one, not saying that the other one was great quality. I'm still getting used to this, but this one is going to be lower quality because I'm going to try and do this in an evening. But yeah, let me know what you think. And next time I'll get back to you with something more interesting, and hopefully I'll have someone on with me, so it's not just me sitting here on my own talking into a black fuzzy microphone. So yeah, take care and enjoy.